This is the Transformers Armada Starscream. Oh my god. This is a figure that was released way back in 2001 by Hasbro and Takara Tomy. Takara before it was purchased by Tomy. This is the Hasbro version. I'd like to give a big shout out and thanks to my buddy William for selling me his Armada Starscream. I was absolutely blown away by this figure when I saw it, and it looks great. Let's take a closer look at the details of this figure. So the figure is what I believe was called back in 2001 is a Max Con. Now a Max Con would probably have been back in the day something like a Voyager or a I guess an Ultra class in Classics, Henkei, Universe, Generations standards. Now here he is with a couple of Voyager class Starscream figures. You've got the Siege mold or the premium finish Starscream, and we've got the Studio Series 86 Starscream or Coronation Starscream, which was taken off of the Earthrise Voyager class Starscream. So he's a little bit bigger than a Voyager class. That's why I'm inclined to think he would have been an Ultra class had the Ultra class designation already been created back then. And here he is with a current leader class figure. We have Galvatron. So I guess I think he could pass for a leader class. I mean, he's got enough mass. In today's standards, he would be leader class. Back then, he'd probably be ultra class. Now, I want to note that back in the early 2000s, the plastic that Hasbro used was just absolutely solid. This was a heavy figure. The plastic was pretty solid. You can knock this thing over. You can drop it. It wouldn't break. I doubt it. You'd lose a bunch of pieces with this figure. I mean, if you listen to the sound that the plastic makes, I mean, contrasting that with what we have now, I mean, this feels so light, cheap, and hollow versus the old plastic. And I kind of wish Hasbro would go back to this kind of standards in quality of plastic, as a heavy, solid plastic. You know, it'd probably be more expensive, but I think a lot of collectors would pay good money for this kind of quality to come back to Transformers. But I think nowadays Hasbro's reserved this kind of quality for masterpiece figures. So mass retail gets the softer kind. Oh, anyway, so he comes with a couple of accessories. He has Swindle. Swindle is his Minicon. He's a nice little Minicon. So this thing has barely enough articulation to do any poses. You can split his legs and his arms like this. Let me just finish them off. He'd probably be something like a shield or a melee weapon. Yeah, he could fit right there on the arm, but essentially he is the vehicle, the small vehicle companion of Starscream, and he turns into a F3, F1 race car. Okay, now the figure itself has one weapon, and this is his sword. It's kind of it's like a corny sword. In the cartoon, it looked much better, but this sword folds up, and it forms his wing, one of his wings. So that completes the whole look of the robot Starscream. Now the figure has great detail. It's very accurate to the show. I thought this was a pretty cool design. It was very heavy. I mean, it really had big kibble on the back, but it didn't really matter. In today's standards today, this would probably be like a partial brick or a semi-articulated figure. There's not a lot of articulation for this figure. The head doesn't move except up and down because of that spring-loaded gimmick, which I will show off maybe later. The arms can only move forward and backward, and they can't really move sidewards unless you twist the shoulders, and you can move sidewards, but that's it. Double jointed elbows because of transformation. Wrist can move up and down because of transformation. The hips can go forward, backwards on a ratchet. They cannot move sidewards, which is annoying. It brings me back to those old 5 points of articulation figures that Kenner made, and can't really do much with it. The knees are on swivels and on ratchet hinges, and then that's it. One interesting feature with this figure is it's got electronics. It's got some sounds, and when I got this from my buddy William, I had opened up the battery pack and my heart just sank because there were 3 LR44 batteries that had leaked. It had green coloration, and I was like, man, the electronics would have been fried by then. So I don't know, I trusted the force and replaced it with new LR44 batteries. And lo and behold, the thing still works. After all these years, about 20 plus years, 21 years, it still has these electronics. Okay, and that's just one part of the electronics. The other part of the electronics is the gimmick that this figure has, which involves the Minicon swindle. So there's a peg right here. There's a little teeny tiny button. I don't know if you can see it right there at the center of that peg. That is the switch that unlocks these guns. So let me see if I can still make this work. So you put swindle, there's I guess a peg hole right there underneath him. And then once you, I guess I should put my fingers out of the way. You press on it, and out pops double shoulder-mounted cannons or rocket launchers and that weird blasting sound. Now these missiles do work. They're spring-loaded, so you can. I'm gonna fire them off to the wall so we don't lose them. They're okay. The spring's not as strong as it used to be, but it's pretty cool. That's 2/3 of the electronics gimmick. The other gimmick is when we put swindle underneath the cockpit, but we'll do that later in alt mode. But you know, back in the day, this was something. It was a heavy toy. It was a great sculpt, and it had electronics, and I thought that was pretty cool. In terms of paint apps, stellar paint apps. Hardly any quality issues. Back in the day, quality issues were kept to a minimum. I guess they didn't produce as much, but you got really nice yellow highlights. You got the purple Decepticon on the wings. You got some red highlights here and there. Very, very nice contrast. Very, very show accurate. To transform this figure, I guess we can keep the missiles out. Put this back. Okay. You want to fold the wings up like this. You want to fold up this piece right here. Fold it up like that. And fold back the cannons. And then detach this entire waist piece right here. And that allows you to compress that head so that when you transform him back into robot mode, you just snap on this lower torso and out pops that head sculpt. A little bit of an automorph type of gimmick back in the day. So okay, the arms, you wanna just fold the fists inward like this. And then these, the instructions were, they were bad. They weren't as clear as the instructions we have today. So kudos to Hasbro for improving their instructions. Compress, because instructions tell you just move it down. Really. Okay, fold the feet up like this and tab that waist piece right there. Fold up the heel spurs. Do this. Yeah. And then fold up the legs and tab those feet in. Same thing here. And essentially, there you have Starscream in his Armada Jet alt mode. It's pretty cool. And then you could still activate that gimmick with the rocket launchers. What's also cool about this is this is the third gimmick. This is the third electronics gimmick. You can tab swindle underneath this cockpit. Let me see if I can do it. It was a little difficult to do. Okay, right there. So that's where you could store him. You could store him there. You could store him here. If you want the rocket launchers back and not popping out, you could store him underneath. I thought this completed the whole jet alt mode. A little bit of a car underneath, sort of like a transport. And then to pop him down, like in attack mode, Swindle, deploy. And then you just press on the cockpit. And it produces a different sound. Once Swindle is down, goes back to its old sound. So yeah, it's a very, very good toy. It's one of those toys that I never found in stores because I was late with getting the Unicron trilogy toys. I caught on when Cybertron hit, or I guess Galaxy Force in Japan. So when Cybertron hit, I was like, oh wow, this is a cool show. The toys were out. I was waiting for them to go on clearance before I bought them. I didn't have money a lot. I didn't have money back in the day. I couldn't buy as much. I don't have money today anyway either, but I waited for clearance and I got all the Cybertron toys or Galaxy Force toys. But I did some research and I figured out there was still two other series. There was the Energon and the Armada series, and I missed out on those toys, and I never found them. And one of the figures I kind of wanted was Starscream. I did see Thundercracker for a while at a hobby shop, but I had no idea who he was or from which show, because I wasn't watching Armada yet. But this Starscream, after I saw the show, oh man, I figured, if I was going to get one of those Seekers, it had to be this guy. And then maybe Skywarp, which was impossible to find. Still impossible to find right now. And then maybe Thundercracker. That would be great if I could still find those guys. So it's a great looking jet mode. I love it. It's a great figure. It's kind of well ahead of its time back in 2001 when Transformers wasn't a thing yet. It was out of pop culture, and those the collectors who grew up collecting the G1 toys had stopped collecting Transformers. And in a way, Michael Bay did jumpstart the franchise once again back in 2007. But this was one of those lines that was really, I thought, a very solid line with solid figures back in the day. I really like this figure, except for the limited articulation. I think the figure deserves an 8 out of 10. A pretty nice looking Starscream. It's a great addition to my Starscream and Seeker collection. Do let me know in the comment section what you guys think of this 2001 Hasbro Transformers Armada MaxCon Starscream with Swindle. Hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any of my latest video reviews. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.